Have you ever found yourself dreaming of retiring early? You are definitely not alone. The whole financial independence, retire early movement, FIRE, it's gaining some serious momentum. But here's the big question. Beyond just saving like crazy, is there a scientifically optimal way to invest your money to make that dream happen? Well, that is exactly what we are digging into today. The data-driven blueprint for building a portfolio that can not only get you to the finish line, but also keep you there. Let's jump in.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with why the FIRE movement is even a thing. Then we'll get into the hunt for that perfect investment mix. After that, we'll look at the theory behind it all, reveal what thousands of simulations tell us is the actual optimal portfolio, and then, this is the fun part, we'll compare that perfect world to what real people are doing. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with your key financial takeaway.
All right, first up, the FIRE movement's rise. What's the big rush to retire early anyway?
This is the central question that's pushing a whole generation to completely rethink the traditional career path. And the reasons for it, they run pretty deep.
This isn't just some passing fad. The data shows it's a direct reaction to some massive shifts in our society. People are getting more and more skeptical about public pensions holding up. You've got aging populations putting a real strain on welfare systems. And on top of that, our whole work culture is changing. People want more flexibility. They want to feel like their work has an impact. You mix all that together, and you've got the perfect recipe for a movement like FIRE to really take off.
Okay, so if you want to get there, how do you actually do it? Well, that brings us to Section 2, the quest for optimal investing. And to really figure out the best way forward, we have to split this whole financial journey into two very different parts.
First, you've got the accumulation phase. This is when you're working, you're saving, you're investing. The goal here is super simple: maximize your growth. But then, once you hit retirement, everything flips. You enter the decumulation phase, and here, the goal totally changes. It's not about growth anymore, it's about longevity, making your money last as long as possible. And these two goals, they require two completely different playbooks.
So how in the world did researchers find the best strategy? They used this incredibly powerful tool called a Monte Carlo simulation. The easiest way to think about it is like running 100,000 different dress rehearsals for your financial life. By simulating thousands and thousands of possible market outcomes, they could pinpoint which investment mix give the best results, again and again, for both growing your money and making it last.
Now, before we get to the big reveal of the optimal portfolio, it is so important to understand the theory behind how these things are built in the first place.
And it really all boils down to something called modern portfolio theory. You know that old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket? Well, this is basically the Nobel Prize-winning science behind it. The main idea is that by mixing different assets together, like stocks and bonds, you can actually lower your overall risk without having to give up your expected returns. It's a game changer.
And this chart illustrates that idea perfectly. What you're looking at is called the efficient frontier. Just focus on the two curves. See how the yellow one, the diversified portfolio, sits higher and more to the left than the purple one. That means for any level of risk you pick on the bottom axis, the diversified portfolio gives you a higher expected return. That, right there, is the power of diversification in action.
All right, now for the part I know you've been waiting for. After running all those simulations, what did the data actually tell us? Let's finally reveal the optimal mix of stocks and bonds for each part of your financial journey.
First up, let's talk about the accumulation phase. This model assumes you have about a 20-year window where you're just focused on aggressively saving and building up that nest egg.
And the optimal mix is about 81% in stocks and 19% in bonds. Yeah, it's aggressive, and it's designed to be. During these prime earning and saving years, the whole game is about maximizing that relationship between risk and return. And according to the data, this is the allocation that does it best.
So what was the result? Well, after 20 years of following this strategy, the median portfolio value in those simulations was over $686,000. That's a pretty powerful result, and it sets you up really well for a nice, long retirement.
But now, the goal has to shift. We're moving into the decumulation phase, a 40-year retirement where you're actually living off that money. The priority is no longer growth, it is all about preservation.
And this is where things get really fascinating. Look at this change. The optimal portfolio flips to about 56% stocks and 44% bonds. You can see it's way more conservative. By seriously upping the bonds, the portfolio is built for stability, which lowers the risk of running out of money and makes it last as long as possible.
So we have the ideal data-driven plan.
But how does this actually compare to what real people are doing with their own retirement accounts? This is where the story gets really interesting.
This quote from the research paper just hits the nail on the head. It says, investors get stuck in a growth mindset. They spend decades building their wealth with an aggressive strategy, but then they completely forget to shift gears into a preservation strategy once they actually retire.
And this table just makes that disconnect crystal clear. Take a look at the accumulation phase. You know what? Pretty close. The optimal is about 81% stocks. Real 401k investors are at about 86%. Not too far off. But now, look at decumulation, the retirement years. Whoa! The optimal strategy says pull way back to 56% stocks to make the money last. And yet, the average investor over 60 is holding a whopping 78% in stocks. That is a massive difference in risk.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. Let's distill all of this data into a few clear, actionable insights that you can use for your own financial journey.
So if there's one single thing to take away from all this, it's this. Your investment strategy needs two completely different gears. You need an aggressive stock-heavy gear for the years you're building wealth, and you need a much more conservative balanced gear for the years you're living off of it in retirement. The biggest mistake, the one the data clearly shows people are making, is failing to make that critical shift from a growth mindset to a longevity mindset. And it means a lot of folks might be taking on way too much risk right when they can afford it the least.
At the end of the day, this research gives us an incredible, data-backed blueprint. It shows us what an optimal path can look like, based on 100,000 simulations. But the most important question is the one that's left for you. What path is right for your goals, your timeline, and maybe most importantly, your own personal comfort with risk?